There was a blog post titled "The Really Important Job Interview Questions Engineers Should Ask But Don't." So I would love for you to give us the TLDR. What are very important questions that engineers should ask of the potential employer that they typically don't?
Interest rates had gone back up and there are layoffs kind of happening everywhere and lots of startups are starting to crumble. And one of the things that struck me was like we interview people a lot because we like hire engineers all the time. And I was like, I don't think I've been asked once if we think we have product market fit from anyone. And I'm like, I've not been asked once by how much revenue we're making. I've never been asked if we're like kind of profitable. Like sometimes someone brave asks how much runway we've got, but it's kind of shocking how shallow the average person goes, I think, because they kind of feel awkward. I think it's really important that you figure out if the business is working or not, if you're going to join it. It's like how the mentality an investor would have if you're joining a business. Like the team matters, the culture matters, but if you join someone that doesn't have product market fit, that's got like a big valuation or has fundraised a lot, like you're going to be joining a really difficult environment to be successful in. Yeah, I think people should just index a lot more on like the underlying business success, the place they're joining, and it's so rare to hear it.
So why do you think that is? Is it like a remnant of the free money era, 2021, where people just assumed, oh yeah, everything's gonna go up and to the right, and that's why they don't ask it? Or there's so much emphasis on, I don't want to offend you. You're in a position of power, frankly, if you're interviewing me for a job, and I don't want to say anything, oh, like how much money are you making? Or how much money do you have? It could be maybe grading. So I wonder if like I'm curious if you have thoughts about why people don't ask these maybe more difficult questions.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think people are worried about like there's a strange power dynamic in an interview, right? Like where I think typically it's kind of 95% questions from the employer, like employer to potential employee. And you turn into a bit of a lemming, I think, if you're not careful, where you just sort of you fall in line and start answering the questions until the interview is over. But I think if you're a strong candidate and you're asking like good questions about the business, like if anything, it's gonna make like as an employer, it would make me feel like, hey, this person gets the company strategy and they're thinking harder about it and they're thinking more critically, which like I kind of I struggle to see how that would ever not really benefit you. Like the kind of company that gets offended at that is probably the exact company you probably shouldn't join
Yeah.
in the first place.
There are companies out there that are they hold information very close to the chest. I think Post Hog is actually the other extreme, right? Like it's public. Like I know that okay, Post Hog is making more than 10 million a year ARR, and you have a target publicly to hit 100 million revenue by 2026, which I think is like very open, very transparent. Obviously, the business is doing well, but I think many other companies either because they don't want to give too much information away or they're nervous about how it might be reflecting on the company, they don't share that. And so then the candidate feels, oh, if I ask and I get told no, it'll put the conversation into an awkward position because I'm
Yeah.
like overreaching potentially.
Like other businesses so small that like if a business is doing like 100 million plus run rate, no one cares anymore. It's like kind of stable seeming at that stage. So
Yeah.
they probably shouldn't be that cagey about sharing it. Like probably like there's so many employees and stuff that will know about it anyway that like kind of and then you're public and then everyone knows anyway. So like who cares? And if you're smaller and you're cagey about it, you're either being cagey because you don't want to share it because it's bad and something's wrong. I would treat that as a flag if they won't share anything with you. And like it's also a strange dynamic. Like you probably don't want to join a company where you're not viewed as a partner to the business.
Yeah.
Like if they're going to hold information back from you, but expect you to spend like 9 hours a day, whatever, working for them,
Yeah.
like that doesn't feel great. Like that probably is the same company that's like going to treat you transactionally and like not pay, like increase your pay if you're doing a good job and all this kind of stuff. Like what else are they going to hold back from you? Whereas if they're small and their revenue's growing pretty quickly, they're probably comfortable sharing it anyway because they kind of are confident and not insecure. So yeah, I think it gets cagey or whatever. Like I just think that's a really good flag for you to surface in the process.
Yes.
And again, like I guess the underlying assumption I have here is like you're a candidate that doesn't feel desperate for a job. I think if you're really struggling, you might feel more worried about this because you're like, well, I really need this job or whatever. But even still, like as an employee and as an employer, it just wouldn't put me off. And I think you can ask it in a really sensitive way. Like you can ask permission to ask that kind of question too. You're
Yeah.
like, it doesn't just have to be straight up, yo, how much money are you making? But I could see it being like this really matters to me, this business. Like I really want to be successful here. Like, how is the company doing? And then like get the vibe. Like they'll probably start talking about how much growth they're having a little bit, and then it's like, is it okay to ask how much revenue you're making at this stage? Like, how much growth did you get last year, or whatever. So you don't have to get jumped straight in the deep end with like it's a revenue figure, but I do think you can ask like, how's the business doing, and it's not an offensive thing to ask.
Yeah. I think it's really, really good advice. And so few engineers follow it. Like one way to frame it is that hopefully you're coming into the interview in a position of strength. And you're going to ideally be spending 50, 60, maybe more, a lot of your life per week. So 50, 60 hours per week with this company. And because of a potentially awkward conversation, people are not asking the fundamental questions that will dictate your growth and the company's growth. So it just feels like a no-brainer that people should be asking this kind of question.